Origin Chess, I'm Reaction, and this is Cuban Missile Crisis Black Saturday, Extra History Part 3 by the channel Extra Credits. In the previous part, we saw how, Fidel Castro was getting pissed off because, Russian was like, Soviets would be like, what missiles? There is no missiles in Cuba. And then they suddenly turn around all the ships that carried warheads. So, Fidel Castro's like, man, what the fuck? I did this because you convinced me to. Now America's gonna be pissed at me. You can't do this. All the spy planes are, flying over my head. They can invade any time. So, and everybody was basically in panic because this is the first time nuclear weapons are introduced in any kind of warfare. Before that, for centuries, if some conflict happens, war just starts at the small scale. Conflicts happen, battle happens, then there's some kind of come with some treaty, and war doesn't escalate to something big. Now it's completely different area, right? You can't have wars even small scale because that could trigger a nuclear war. That could wipe out everything. Nothing is left. So nuclear war has changed the mentality of how things work. So everybody was at edge, like any kind of attack could be problematic. Every military advisor was telling JFK, oh, okay, we should do the blockade, and if anybody not comply, we should attack. And JFK was panicking, like, you can't attack. That means war. That means nukes flying over our head. So this was a real pressure situation. Everybody was in panic. This was just after 18, 20 years after the World War II. Just 20 or so years before World War II, there was World War I. So this is, the time scale is not that off. So around this time, people are expecting that there could be a major war if the previous trend we can see. So everybody was in panic. Everybody's like, oh shit, war could break out any time. Pressure is rising again. Again, two powers are coming together to fight. But this time there are nukes. God knows what's going to happen. So this was really after situation. It's really hard to comprehend right now because right now anything like that, like, North Korea is, getting ready for strike. All of us know, yeah, nothing's going to happen because there hasn't been a major war in 80 years for us. At this time, it was just 2 decades. And it's a trend. Every 2 decades, there was some big enough war. So, this was really after like World War I, after 2 decades later, World War II, 2 decades later, World War III with nukes. This must be the end. That was everybody's mentality. So, yeah, let's watch this one. Remember, if you like my reaction, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out the Rick Sunday. There's a link in the description. Check out Khas with different playlists like History, Orisa Production, Internet Historian, CGP Great, Here's Zoo. Yeah, let's watch it.
October 27th, 3:35 a.m. The bomber lets go. A flash lights the Arctic Circle. Shockwaves tear outward with the power of 20 Hiroshima bombs. Radioactive ash collects on the barren island below. A Soviet atmospheric test.
Back up there.
The bomber lets go. A flash lights the Arctic Circle. Shockwaves tear outward with the power of 20 Hiroshima bombs. Radioactive ash collects on the barren island below. A Soviet atmospheric test scheduled before the crisis. In Cuba, Soviet troops are transporting warheads to the missile sites. They and the American troops in Florida are—
Wait a minute, was he talking about Tsar Bomba there? Tsar Bomba was tested just before this? Damn, that is some effed up thing.
prepared for an invasion. At the quarantine line, Soviet subs play cat and mouse with American destroyers. At noon, America conducts its own test. A mushroom cloud rises 60,000 feet over the Pacific. Thus dawns Black Saturday, the day mankind—
What, Castle Bravo? Wait a minute, all this shit happened around this crisis? Oh god, that is like cherry on the top. It's not like pressure is already on top, everybody's at each other's throat. Ah, fuck that, let me flex right now. They do their nuclear test, I'm gonna do my nuclear test, and everyone just watches. Oh shit, this is escalating, man.
came closest to nuclear destruction. The clock sits at 11:59. This Cold War series is brought to you by Dominations. If you want to get your Khrushchev on, check out the link in the description. 11:59 a.m. A U-2 pilot searches the horizon. He had taken off 8 hours before to collect air samples from the Soviet atmospheric test. But this close to magnetic north, all navigation is celestial, and the northern lights have wiped the sky clean. He has had to guess his way back to Alaska, and something about the ground below looks off somehow. Little does he know, Soviet jets lurk 15,000 feet below him, ready to strike when he descends. He's just flown into the Soviet Union. At the White House, XCOM is at the end of their rope. They'd nearly agreed to accept Khrushchev's deal, pledging never to invade Cuba in exchange for Russia dismantling.
Was that necessary, sending that plane there to collect samples at the time where pressure is this high? Any kind of a small conflict in there, shooting down a plane, shooting down a ship, could trigger a war. At times like this, was this necessary to send a plane there to collect samples?
The missiles. But 2 hours ago, Radio Moscow broadcast a new deal. Khrushchev also wants US missiles withdrawn from Turkey. The new Soviet position is tough because it's so reasonable. Missiles for missiles. It would go down well at the UN. Kennedy leans toward accepting. The missiles are obsolete and due for withdrawal anyway. But the Hawks revolt. This will break NATO. It's trading away an ally's safety for our own. Rival factions in XCOM begin drafting their own responses to the offer. Meanwhile, the generals are preparing for air sorties in Cuba, starting...
Oh, I see it. So Americans cannot withdraw the weapons because that would mean the allies there, all the other European nations, you're abandoning them. Because Soviets obviously has nuclear weapons. The European countries, I think at the time, didn't have much. So if US withdraws, that means every European country is threatened under Soviet Union. Is that it? Damn, that's a conundrum right there.
Monday. Kennedy convinces them to delay until Tuesday, but time for diplomacy is running out. Then, they hear that a U-2 is overdue from Cuba. At 1 p.m., generals are rushing to put the U.S. nuclear force on full alert. In the event of war, they need everything ready, even if it means cutting corners. Nuclear weapons are supposed to work on the buddy system, where no one man is able to fire. But in the chaos, that's waived. Single-seat jets are equipped with tactical nukes. To get the new Minuteman missiles online, commanders jury-rig a solution that bypasses safety protocols. If an error occurs, the Minutemen will launch within 30 seconds. At 2:25 p.m., the lost U-2 pilot, out of fuel, finds...
Safety precaution. Who cares about that, right? So let me get this. All the technicians and scientists, when they made all this technology, they thought, okay, you know what, we can't trust people because they could clearly make blunders. So let's put safety protocols in because these are nukes that could kill off cities, millions of people. So let's put on 2 switches and some protocols. And when actual shit happens, when actual pressure begins, where there can actually be a war, everybody in the military, those idiots, those geeks, ruined everything. Let's just jury-rig this so only one button. Why would you need 2 buttons there? What would you need all this system for? What, you don't trust us? Come on.
Finally glides into a rural airstrip in Alaska. For 2 hours, a navigator has been carefully guiding him in by radio. Only then does he learn that his excursion over the USSR lit up every Soviet air defense system in the sector. MiGs hunted him the whole time, thinking he was preparing for a bombing run. His legs give out. At 4:20 p.m.
Oh shit! Imagine that. You're on plane. Just seeing skies and stars. It's a really peaceful flight. There is no sound, nothing, but you're just hitting your plane. You just do your mission, calmly come back to Alaska. It's like, oh, that was a good trip there. You just suddenly hear, the Russians were on you. They thought you were a bomber, and you almost died there because you set off every single, signal there. You set off every single, radars and whatever. And they were almost on your ass to take you down.
p.m. XCOM is beginning to question everything. Why did Khrushchev offer 2 deals in 24 hours? In fact, how do they know they're negotiating with Khrushchev at all? The tones of the messages were pretty different. What if there was a coup and the Red Army has taken over? They're going in circles now. Then they hear the news. The overdue U-2 isn't coming back. The Soviets shot it down.
Oh yeah.
Escalation. At 5:50 p.m., Khrushchev phones his family. A car is coming to pick them up. They're going to the vacation house. Don't ask questions. The U-2 shoot-down has shaken him to his core. Who ordered it? He'd told Soviet troops to defend themselves, not fire on unarmed planes. And Castro had sent that crazy letter urging a first strike on the United States.
Yeah, see, so far, Khrushchev has changed his position, making demands like that. Feel of the situation is Soviets are being a bit aggressive now. And then you hear that, okay, Soviets also shot down our plane. It feels complete aggression from Soviet side, even though it might not have been intended that way. it really feels like that. Khrushchev knows this. He knows that I just made demands like that. I just changed my demand. And now, they will hear about that, we shot down their plane. This is going to end really badly.
Were Soviet troops now following Cuban orders? And if so, would the next unauthorized launch be nuclear? He gets a report. A U-2 violated Soviet airspace. Kennedy is pushing this too far. It's 6:30 p.m. For 2 days, an American destroyer has played cat and mouse with a Soviet sub, and now they've finally caught it. For a half hour, they've signaled it with grenades. No response. Now it's time to roll out something bigger. Practice depth charges. Moscow knew that the US Navy would use this signal, but no one told the submarine crews. Below, the captain of the B-59 is going mad. The sub's cooling system is broken. It's 130 degrees in there.
What?
Drained batteries force the
130 degree Fahrenheit. That's way too hot. I live in India and even for me that's way too hot. Damn.
crew to live in the dark. Unable to surface while being pursued, they haven't talked to Moscow in 48 hours. They have no idea if there's a war on. And the grenades, it sounds like someone beating the hull with a sledgehammer. And then, wham! That was a depth charge. The war has started. There's no other explanation. The captain gives the order, load the nuclear torpedo. If his crew's gonna perish, they're gonna take the American fleet with them. At 7:30 p.m., XCOM has outlived its usefulness. Kennedy withdraws with a small corps of advisors to try and figure out how to accept the missile swap while still preserving NATO. And they've got a plan. First, they'll send a public letter agreeing to Khrushchev's first offer. The US will never invade Cuba. Bobby will deliver that letter to the Soviet ambassador, along with a second secret offer. Half an hour later, the ambassador is shocked at Kennedy's demeanor. Bobby has always been eager to pick fights, but now he's empty of bluster. Time is of the essence, Kennedy says. The military wants retribution for the U-2. We can accept the non-invasion pledge publicly, but we can't make an open trade for the Turkish missiles. But take the deal, he says, and the missiles will be gone in 5 months. And by the way, if this conversation leaks, the deal's off. The ambassador leaves at a run. It's 9:52 p.m. Wham! Another depth charge. It's now or never. They are gonna vaporize as much of the American Navy as they can. Normally, 2 men have to agree to fire B-59's nuclear torpedo, the captain and the political officer. They have both voted yes. But aboard this submarine is a third man, the flotilla commander Vasily Arkhipov, and he also gets a vote. Wham! An argument breaks out on deck. Arkhipov votes no. Wham! They need to surface and get orders from Moscow. It might end their careers, but it might also save the world. The captain calms.
There you go. A guy with 2 brain cells, right? I mean, yes, it could be a war, but you don't know that. Alternative is you launching nukes that could, start this chain reaction of nukes. He knows this. So he's not like, we can't just take chance on nuclear weapons. We don't know what Moscow wants. We don't know if war's on or not. Let's just resurface. What's the worst going to happen? That kind of thing.
His moment of fury passing. It will be good, at least, to breathe fresh air again. B-59 surfaces surrounded by 4 American destroyers. Its ragged crew, which has traveled further than any Soviet sub in history, defiantly unveils the red banner of the Soviet Union. October 28th. It's morning in Moscow. Khrushchev has moved the Presidium to a vacation house outside the city. He can tell they are judging him for creating this mess. Reports are coming in fast. The KGB swears war is imminent. He's still trying to figure out who ordered Soviet troops to shoot down that U-2, and to decipher what message Kennedy was trying to send with the airspace violation. Then, Robert Kennedy's deal arrives. Khrushchev reads it out. The Presidium approves. Diplomats rush to cobble together a message, while Khrushchev composes a letter trying to calm Castro. Russian police halt all traffic as a car rushes the announcement to Radio Moscow. Things are developing so quickly, they're worried war could break out on the car ride.
Yeah, seriously.
A broadcast goes out. The
missile... They almost did with the submarine, right? If that guy wasn't there, they were ready to launch. And if they had launched nuclear weapons on those carriers there, that's it. I mean, everybody's hand tied after that. If people doesn't want war, now they have to. It's like you have to, it's not. There is no kingship, right? In this government, regardless how much power you have, whether you're a president or you're a military general. After certain events happen, you have to show to the public, like, okay, we can't back down or something like that. Even if you know that it's a mistake, you have to give a response, and vice versa. It creates a chain effect that creates a war. So if that nuclear weapon would have launched from the submarine, that was the end. That would have started a massive war. Now, yes, severity of war could have been controlled, but the war would have been inevitable. So that one guy saved the day, basically.
Are leaving, and the crisis is over. XCOM celebrates. Castro trashes his office. Khrushchev finally gets some sleep. These leaders had begun the crisis thinking of politics as a chessboard, a game of moves and counter-moves. But by the end, they realized almost too late that they weren't moving chess pieces. They were throwing dice. They could place bets, but it was luck as much as skill that kept them from war.
Seriously.
A recon photo finding a missile, a U-2 straying into enemy territory, a submarine officer voting no.
Yeah.
The crisis was over, but the gambling would continue, even as, one by one, these men who saved the world were removed from it. While the US's non-invasion pledge secured Castro's hold on power, his volatility during the crisis marginalized him with his Soviet allies. Cuba would never again wield such influence on the world stage.
Seriously.
Kennedy helped cool US...
Soviets would not trust Castro after that. Like, Castro's way too volatile. Next time he could do something that could be really catastrophic.
Soviet relations. He negotiated a test ban treaty and established a hotline so that the president could talk with a Soviet premier directly without delay.
Oh, yeah.
He was starting to plan a new meeting with Khrushchev in 1963 when he stepped off Air Force One in...
Yo, Khrushchev, yeah, what you doing? What, is the war happening? No, I was just thinking here. What were you eating right now? Man, that's not what the line's for. Who cares?
Dallas. Kennedy would be carried back aboard that plane. In his absence, a dangerous myth grew. Most of XCOM never knew about the missile swap. They thought iron-willed diplomacy backed by military force had won the day, and if it worked with the mighty Soviet Union, mightn't it work on a small country like Vietnam? In 1964, the Presidium ousted Khrushchev, citing his poor decisions, including the missile deployment. He retired to write his memoirs, an old man with no influence. The new leadership immediately began turning out long-range missiles to
ESCOM thing is pretty typical, right? Military advisor, of course they're thinking like that.
compete with the U.S. arsenal. Robert Kennedy wrote a book about the crisis. He served in the Senate and ran for president in 1968. He supported de-escalating the Cold War, especially in Vietnam. After winning the California primary, he stopped to shake hands with a hotel employee who'd brought meals up to his room. An assassin shot him 3 times. The handshake turned into an embrace. The young man kept Kennedy's head off the floor and put a rosary in his hand. "Is everybody okay?" Kennedy asked. One of his eyes closed, his leg was twitching. He tried to comfort the man who held him. "Everything's going to be okay." The Cold War continued for another...
Whoa, you need to be a certain level of strong man in order to do that. It doesn't matter how powerful, strong-willed, iron-willed, whatever you want to say you are. When you know you're gonna die, you know you've been shot. At that moment, most of the time people panic or they're in shock. Being calm like that was a strong man right there. What the fuck, man? Kennedy's was shot left and right. Assassination was really high around that time. JFK was shot, his brother was shot. This is just fucked up.
23 years. As of 2018, the clock is at 2 minutes to midnight. This episode was brought to you by Dominations.
Damn, this was some serious pressure situation, right? I mean, during the Cold War, this is the most pressure situation there was. And Cold War being itself the biggest pressure situation of all time. This particular events were really stressful for any politician, anybody involved. Especially when, it's like you say, it's a domino thing. Not dice thing, sorry, not domino. It's a dice thing, not the chess thing. Right? Any decision they make can be backfire. So they can control all the elements. Like that one submarine incident, that could have triggered the war, but one guy saved it. I mean, there were many elements. If they had gone wrong, the war would have been there with the nuclear weapons. So that's just fucked up. Man, this was a great series. I didn't expect it to be this good, but yeah, this was awesome. Cuban Missile Crisis, Black Saturday. This is the time where they tested Tsar Bomba and Castle Bravo, or maybe they were different bombs. I don't know. But that's just fucked up. This just few days of this press situation where everybody's at each other's throat and they're testing out bombs too. That's just fucking heavy. Alright, people, if you like my reaction, don't forget to subscribe, check out the reaction, there's a link in the description, check out the casual playlist, check out the end cards, and yeah, if you want me to react to any other, like any other series from this channel, comment down, and I'll see you next time.